Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sun Moon Audiobook, the channel where we share wisdom and inspiring book journeys to help you grow and develop your best self, inside and out. The street was still asleep, wrapped in the silver hush of pre-dawn, when the first whisper of light brushed against the rooftops. Somewhere far away, a bird tested the morning with a single note, as if to ask the world if it was ready to begin again. And in that suspended moment between night and day, the air felt differently with possibility, trembling with the quiet promise that everything, yes everything, could change if you chose to rise and meet it. This is the tender threshold Robin Sharma invites us to step across in the 5 a.m. Club, not as a discipline of the clock, but as a reclaiming of our own life before the world lays its hands on it. Robin's voice in this work is not that of a lecturer on a stage, but more like a guide walking beside you down an empty beach at sunrise, pointing to the horizon, not to impress you, but because he knows what it feels like to stand there and see your own life in a new light. He is a man who has spent decades studying human potential, who has spoken into the ears and hearts of leaders, artists, athletes, and dreamers, and distilled their wisdom into rituals simple enough to follow but profound enough to change the trajectory of a lifetime. And this, he seems to say, is where it begins, not with grand gestures, not with dramatic declarations, but with one quiet hour when the world is still soft and your mind has yet to be hijacked by the noise. He tells this story not through instruction alone, but through a fable, weaving the journey of characters whose lives are aching with the same restless yearning you may know in your own bones. The hunger for more, the fear of falling short, the constant tug of war between what is and what could be. The 5 a.m. Club is about waking up early, yes, but more than that, it is about waking up to yourself. In those first golden minutes of the day, before screens glow and deadlines chase you, you are given the rare gift of sovereignty over your own mind, heart, and soul. You become the sculptor with fresh clay, the gardener with untouched soil, the author staring at a blank page where the story can still go anywhere. And the truth is, those who claim this hour, this precious, undistracted space, often reshape their entire destiny. Think of it like a secret garden walled off from the chaos. The world will never grant you this time. You must take it for yourself. And in that space, you follow what Sharma calls the 20-20-20 formula. 20 minutes of movement to shake the cobwebs from your body and flood your brain with clarity. 20 minutes of reflection to listen to the quiet voice beneath your thoughts, and 20 minutes of learning to feed your mind before the demands of the day starve it of wonder. These are not arbitrary numbers. They are rooted in science, in the rhythms of our biology, in the way blood flow and brain chemistry respond to physical exertion, stillness, and curiosity. But beyond the mechanics, there's a poetry to it, the way sweat turns into energy, silence turns into insight, and curiosity turns into growth. And you, who are listening right now, you might be wondering if rising at 5 a.m. is even possible for someone like you, with your commitments, your late nights, your exhaustion that feels so woven into your days, it's become part of you. This is where Sharma's story turns gentle. He knows transformation rarely begins in leaps. It starts in steps so small they almost feel invisible. Waking up 10 minutes earlier, choosing to put the phone away 30 minutes before bed, protecting your sleep like the treasure it is. In the book, the characters resist, they stumble, they question why it matters. But in the quiet persistence of trying, they begin to notice something. The morning air feels like an ally. The silence stops feeling empty and starts feeling like space. Their creativity blooms, their focus sharpens, and the voice in their head that once said, "Not you, not yet," begins to whisper, "Maybe you, maybe now." And there's something deeply human in that shift. It's not about the hour on the clock. It's about becoming the kind of person who meets the day before the day meets them. This is a habit practiced by many we admire. Think of Apple's Tim Cook, who rises before the sun to prepare his mind for the weight of leading one of the world's most influential companies. Or Michelle Obama, whose early morning workouts became her sanctuary of strength during the most demanding years of public life. They do not rise early because it is easy. They rise early because they understand that when the world is still, they can build themselves before they must give themselves away. There is a moment in the book when one character begins to realize that this early hour is not just about productivity, but about peace, about reclaiming the simple right to sit with your own thoughts before anyone else's flood in. And I remember once standing by a window at that hour, watching the light spill across a quiet street, feeling for the first time in a long time that I was not behind in my own life. That moment was not loud or grand, but it was mine. And I think, perhaps, that is what this practice is really about, returning to yourself. But change is never without its shadows. Halfway through this journey, there is resistance. Old habits pull you back. The warmth of the bed feels heavier than the call of the morning, and you wonder if any of it is worth it. This is where Sharma speaks of grit, of guarding your victory hour fiercely, of remembering that discomfort is the price of growth. He reminds us that all transformation is first met with sabotage from within and without, and that pushing through those first fragile weeks is the difference between a life reimagined and a life left unchanged. It is here that the mantra returns: own your morning, elevate your life. Words repeated not as a slogan, but as a reminder that how you begin is how you build. And so, the days begin to stack, one after another, each dawn opening like the pages of a book you didn't know you had the power to write. At first, it feels almost strange to wake when most of the world still sleeps. The streets outside holding their breath, the sky suspended in shades of ink and gold. But slowly, it becomes a rhythm that feels less like discipline and more like devotion. This hour is no longer just a block of time, it's a sanctuary. Robin Sharma calls it the victory hour for a reason. In that first stretch of the day, before the demands of the world sweep you away, you build a fortress of clarity, energy, and intent. Movement sharpens your body, reflection steadies your soul, and learning ignites your mind. You are not just preparing for the day ahead, you are preparing for the life ahead. And the transformation doesn't stop at dawn. What happens in those early hours echoes into everything you touch. Your conversations carry more presence. Your work bears more focus. Your creativity no longer drips out reluctantly, but flows like a river unblocked. This is because you are no longer starting your day reacting, you are starting it creating. You have laid the first brick before the chaos arrives. But there's a truth here that Sharma insists we face. It is not enough to rise early if you fill that time with the same noise you swore you'd escape. The phone stays down. The emails wait. The world's urgency must not breach the walls of this sacred time. In the fable, the characters are taught to treat these mornings like sacred appointments with their highest selves, appointments that cannot be rescheduled, delayed, or interrupted. The mentor in the story warns that the world will try to steal this time, not out of malice, but because that is what the world does. It demands, it distracts, it devours, and you must guard your mornings as you would your most precious treasures. This guarding is not just about the morning it spills into life. You begin to protect your mental space throughout the day, to curate what enters your mind and heart, to become the gatekeeper of your own attention. And slowly, something remarkable happens. The noise doesn't feel as loud. You see through the urgency of things that once pulled you apart. You learn that stillness is not absence, it is presence. You begin to feel it in your work, your relationships, your creativity. And this is where Sharma introduces another thread, one that goes deeper than habit. He speaks of the 4 interior empires: mindset, Heartset, Healthset, and Soulset. It is not enough, he says, to master your mind if your heart is starved of compassion, your body is neglected, or your soul is disconnected from meaning. The early hour is the place where all 4 can be nourished. In movement, you honor your Healthset, making your body an ally instead of an anchor. In reflection, you tend to your Heartset, softening the edges of old wounds, reconnecting with gratitude and grace. In learning, you expand your mindset, feeding your mind ideas that lift you rather than limit you. And in the quiet between them all, you touch your Soulset, that place in you that is timeless, steady, and unshaken by the world's storms. He reminds us that neglecting any one of these is like building a house with a missing wall. Eventually, the weather will come in. You, who are listening right now, may feel the weight of one of these empires in your own life running low. Maybe your mind is sharp, but your body aches. Maybe your heart is open, but your focus is scattered. Maybe you've achieved much, but feel the ache of meaning missing. The mornings offer a place to repair, to rebuild, to restore. And yes, there will be days you fall short. Days when you oversleep. Days when the ritual feels heavy instead of light. Sharma calls these the messy middles, the inevitable valleys between the peaks. But he urges us to remember that greatness is not in never missing a step. It is in always returning to the path. Even missing a morning is not failure. It is simply a reminder to begin again. Think of leaders, artists, and changemakers who have shaped history. They are not defined by unbroken streaks, but by relentless returns. The early hour becomes a symbol of that return. Each dawn is a clean slate, a fresh chance to recommit to who you want to become. And with time, the practice seeps into your identity. You stop being someone who wakes early. You become someone who chooses their life, moment by moment, before the world chooses it for them. There's a scene in the fable where one character, once skeptical, sits alone by the sea at 5 a.m., feeling the wind on their face, the sand cool beneath their hands, and realizes they have not felt this alive in years. The rising sun is not just light, it is an unveiling, a reminder that beauty exists quietly, waiting for those who will meet it halfway. That's the gift of this practice, is a way of meeting life halfway. And as the days unfold into weeks, the practice begins to weave itself into the very fabric of the characters' lives, just as it can in yours. There's a subtle but profound shift that happens when you wake before the world. Your mind no longer starts the day at a deficit, scrambling to catch up. Instead, it steps onto the stage prepared, grounded, and open. It's the difference between being swept into a rushing river and calmly setting sail from a quiet shore. Robin Sharma understands that our outer world is always a reflection of our inner one, and the early morning is the ideal place to do the interior work that makes the exterior flow. That is why he presses the idea that your mornings are not just about getting a head start. They are about building the self who can carry that head start with grace. In the stillness of 5 a.m., the noise of comparison, the tug of expectation, the invisible weight of the day-to-day all seem to loosen their grip. In that quiet, you get to remember what you truly value. You remember that life isn't just about responding to the demands around you, it's about responding to the calling within you. And calls like that don't shout, they whisper. They speak in the language of intuition, of longing, of small but persistent truths. You can't hear them when you wake at the same time as everyone else, already drowning in the static of the day. But at 5 a.m., the signal comes in clear. Sharma speaks often about the importance of deliberate practice, about how mastery in any field comes not from bursts of effort, but from the disciplined shaping of your craft, day after day. The morning ritual becomes a metaphor for this kind of mastery. It is not the act of rising early alone that transforms you. It is what you do with that time, how you inhabit it, how you repeat it until it becomes not an act of willpower, but an act of identity. And in that identity, you find freedom. No longer is growth something you chase, it becomes something you live. There's a deep honesty in the way he addresses the resistance we all face. He doesn't pretend you will always want to get up. He doesn't pretend you will always feel inspired. In fact, he expects the opposite. He knows there will be mornings when the bed feels like a sanctuary and the alarm feels like an enemy. He knows there will be seasons when you question why you started at all. And it's in those moments he offers the reminder. Discomfort is the price of admission to a better life. Growth demands that you outgrow the comforts that once defined you. One of the most striking ideas in the book is that your morning is your own personal laboratory, a place where you can experiment, make mistakes, and grow without the scrutiny of the world. You can try new routines, explore ideas, write words no one will read, move your body in ways no one will see. In that protected hour, There is no judgment, only creation. And as you experiment there, you carry the courage to experiment everywhere else. When we look at those who have built extraordinary lives, entrepreneurs who shift industries, artists who redefine their mediums, leaders who inspire movements, we often overlook the scaffolding behind their brilliance. Sharma insists that the scaffolding is in the routines, the seemingly ordinary practices repeated over years until they create something extraordinary. Michelangelo, for example, didn't sculpt David in a burst of inspiration. He showed up to the marble day after day. Maya Angelou didn't write her poetry in chaotic flashes alone. She carved space and time to write without distraction. The 5 a.m. practice is that scaffolding for the rest of us, the hidden structure that makes the visible art of our lives possible. And yet, as the book progresses, it becomes clear that this is not just about personal gain. Rising early, building yourself in that quiet space, also allows you to give more to others. When you are grounded, when your cup is full before the world takes from it, you show up differently. You listen better. You work more intentionally. You love more fully. The early morning becomes the act of tending your own light so it can burn brighter for everyone you encounter. There is a tenderness in the way Sharma ties this back to purpose. He reminds us that every day we are either moving closer to our highest self or drifting away from it. There is no standing still. And the mornings become a compass, gently pulling you back toward the path you are meant to walk. Even on the days you feel lost, the ritual is a reminder you still have the power to begin again. No one can take that from you. You, right now, may be feeling the tug of that possibility. You may feel both the longing and the resistance. That's normal. It means you care. And if you take one thing from this story, let it be this: you do not have to leap the whole distance today. You only have to wake up tomorrow and meet yourself at the dawn. That single act, repeated, will build a life you barely recognize but deeply love. There comes a turning point in the fable, a quiet moment when the mentor's lessons stop feeling like something to try and start feeling like something to live. It's not marked by fireworks or applause, it's marked by a sunrise. Just a simple, ordinary sunrise, but seen through eyes that are now awake to its gift. And this is something Robin Sharma weaves so delicately into the narrative. The idea that transformation is less about adding new layers to ourselves and more about peeling away what's dulled our vision. Waking at 5 a.m. isn't about doing more. It's about seeing more. Seeing the way the light spills across your desk before the day has a chance to crowd it with tasks. Seeing the way your mind is sharper before the static of the world fills the airwaves. Seeing that you are capable of setting the tone for your day instead of letting the day set it for you. The 20-20-20 formula, which once felt like a framework to follow, now becomes a natural rhythm. Those first 20 minutes of movement are no longer just exercise, they are a signal to your body that it's time to come alive. Your breath deepens, your heartbeat steadies into something strong and sure, and there's a clarity in your thoughts that feels earned. The 20 minutes of reflection begin to feel like an anchor. Whether it's through journaling, meditation, or quiet contemplation, you find patterns in your thinking you never noticed before, truths about yourself that have been waiting for a moment to speak. And the 20 minutes of growth, of learning, become a doorway to new worlds. You feed your mind with ideas that stretch you, challenge you, and remind you that you are not done evolving. And as you do this, the rest of the day starts to bend toward the way you began it. There's a subtle momentum that builds, a feeling that you are not simply reacting to life, but engaging with it on purpose. You notice how your conversations shift, you listen longer before responding, you speak with more intention, and you carry a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to be announced. This is the unseen dividend of owning your morning. The person you are in those early hours is the person who shows up in every other hour that follows. But Sharma is honest about the fact that this momentum is fragile, especially in the beginning. The world will tempt you to trade your mornings for extra sleep, for the comfort of the familiar, for the pull of old habits that whisper, you can always start tomorrow. And sometimes you will give in. But this is where he introduces one of the most liberating truths of the book, that missing a day doesn't erase the work you've done. The path is still there, waiting for you. You simply step back onto it. The strength is not in never falling, it's in never staying down. He invites us to see ourselves as artists, not just in the traditional sense of painting or music, but as artists of life itself. Every choice you make in the morning is a brushstroke on the canvas of your day. Will you choose colors of clarity, intention, and peace, or will you let the gray tones of distraction and urgency flood the picture? The early hours give you the best chance to choose your palette before the noise begins. And there's something deeply moving in how this practice can ripple outward. Sharma paints the image of a leader who begins their day in solitude and strength, who carries that stability into their team, their family, their community. The ripples are felt not because they demanded attention, but because they radiated steadiness. This is the difference between pushing your way through the world and shaping it from the inside out. In the middle of the book, there's a moment when one of the characters reflects on how much of their life had been spent chasing results without tending to the roots. They realized that their mornings had always belonged to the demands of others' messages, meetings, emergencies, and in giving away their first hour, they had been giving away their power. Now, with the 5 a.m. practice, they were reclaiming it, and the rest of their day felt less like a battle and more like a dance. You might be feeling, as you hear this, a mix of curiosity and hesitation. The idea is beautiful, but the change feels daunting. And here's where Sharma's compassion shines through. He doesn't tell you to change everything overnight. He tells you to start where you are, with what you have. Maybe it's waking 15 minutes earlier. Maybe it's moving your body for 5 minutes instead of 20. Maybe it's simply sitting in stillness without touching your phone. The victory is not in perfection, it's in progress. And slowly, the mantra returns again and again, like a heartbeat. Own your morning, elevate your life. It's a reminder that the morning is not just the start of the day, it's the foundation of who you are becoming. There's a tenderness in the way the story moves toward its final lessons, as if Robin Sharma knows that what keeps us from rising early is rarely just laziness or lack of discipline. It's the quiet exhaustion of living in a world that pulls us in 100 directions, the weariness of always feeling behind, the ache of dreams that have been set aside for too long. The 5 a.m. hour is presented almost like a gentle rebellion against that pace, a way of saying to the world, you will not take the best of me before I've given it to myself. And as the characters in the fable grow into their new rhythm, they find that it's not just about reclaiming time, it's about reclaiming the parts of themselves they thought were gone. One of the most powerful shifts comes when they realize that mornings are a place not just for action, but for restoration. Too often we think of productivity as the constant output of energy. But Sharma shows how the early hour can be a time for filling up, for quiet acts of self-respect that strengthen you for the day ahead. A run in the cool dawn air becomes less about calories burned and more about feeling your body's strength. Writing in a journal becomes less about recording events and more about listening to your own heart. Reading a few pages of a book becomes less about checking off a goal and more about feeding your mind something nourishing. In these moments, success is not measured by the number of tasks completed, but by the depth of connection you've built with yourself before the day demands you give it away. There's a story in the book where the characters are reminded of a truth so simple, it's almost easy to miss. Your days are your life in miniature. The way you live each day is, in essence, the way you live your life. And if you keep starting your days in a state of reaction rushing, distracted, scattered, then your life will take on that same tone. But if you start with clarity, with intention, with practices that align you with your deepest values, then your life begins to mirror that steadiness. It's not about one morning changing everything. It's about hundreds of mornings shaping you slowly into the person you were meant to be. At this stage in the fable, the once resistant characters have begun to feel the truth of this in their bones. They're not just hearing the advice, they're living it. And they see how it's changing the way they show up for others. One of them, once quick to frustration, now finds themselves listening with patience they didn't know they had. Another, once scattered and overextended, now moves through their day with a calm focus that others can feel in the room. This is the hidden gift of the 5 a.m. habit. You think you're doing it for yourself, but it inevitably spills over into the lives of everyone you touch. And yet, even here, Sharma doesn't paint it as a straight path. He acknowledges that there will always be seasons when you drift, when you fall back into old rhythms, when you wonder if the work is worth it. That's when the sunrise becomes a symbol not of perfection, but of renewal. No matter how many mornings you miss, there's another one waiting for you. The sun does not ask if you deserve it, it simply rises, and you can rise with it. There's a brief, poignant moment, the only time I let myself speak in the first person, when I remember watching the first light spill into my own small kitchen on a morning when life felt unbearably heavy. The coffee steamed in my hands. The street outside was still asleep, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the tiniest flicker of hope. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but it was enough to remind me that maybe, just maybe, I could begin again. That's what the 5 a.m. Club is offering. Not just productivity, but possibility. And so, as the fable draws toward its close, the lessons crystallize into something both simple and profound. Wake early, move, reflect, learn. Guard this time fiercely. Use it not just to get ahead in the world, but to get aligned with yourself. Let it be the hour where you plant seeds that the rest of the day will water. Let it be the place where you remember that your life is yours to shape. And know that in owning your morning, you are doing far more than setting an alarm. You are setting the course of your days, your years, your legacy. You, who are listening now, do not have to wait for the perfect conditions to begin. You do not have to wait until you feel ready. You simply have to meet the dawn once, and then again, until it becomes the place you return to. Not out of duty, but out of love for the life you are building. And when the resistance comes, and it will remember that every great change feels uncomfortable at first, chaotic in the middle, and beautiful at the end. So perhaps tomorrow, before the rest of the world stirs, you will open your eyes to the dark sky, feel the stillness holding its breath, and choose to step into that quiet. Perhaps you will move, reflect, learn. Perhaps you will feel the first warmth of light touch your skin and know that in this moment, you are not just awake, you are alive. Own your morning, elevate your life. And if these words have stirred something in you, I would be deeply honored if you would like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what this idea awakens in you. Tell me if you've ever felt the quiet magic of an early morning. Your voice, your reflections, your presence here, they matter more than you know. Because when we share what inspires us, we keep the fire alive, for ourselves and for each other.